Ever tried reading while jogging, cooking, or even juggling flaming torches? Yeah, it doesn't end well. But with audiobooks.com, you can conquer books without the circus act. Dive into over 450,000 titles, including more than 10,000 free ones. Get hooked on a bestseller, find your next obsession, or finally read that classic you've been avoiding since high school. And here's the inside scoop. Sign up today for a free 30-day trial and snag your first 3 audiobooks on the house. Sign up for your free trial at audiobooks.com/podcastfree today. That's audiobooks.com/podcastfree.
By now, everyone knows that Dollar Shave Club ships amazing razors for a few bucks. I've been a member for a while now, and I love my shave. What you might not know, and I truly didn't know this, is that Dollar Shave Club also has products for pretty much everything I need in the bathroom. That means like body wash, shampoo, hair gel, lip balm, the whole deal. As soon as I heard Dollar Shave Club had stuff other than razors, I was totally sold. At the store, there are too many options, and you can't tell the difference between any of them. Then if you have any questions, the clerk, you know who they're hiring down there, they don't know the difference either, so they can't really help you. They're not experts on the products. But DSC makes it easy and convenient for you to upgrade your shave and your bathroom. Now you don't have to step foot in a store to get high-quality shave and grooming products. We'll deliver them right to your door. Just like their razors, everything is super high quality and left me looking and feeling amazing. From premium ingredients to sophisticated scents, DSC is changing the game. Now, if you're like me and sick of the nonsense at the store, now's the time to try out Dollar Shave Club. For a limited time only, DSC is basically giving away their starter set to new members for only $5. That's it, $5. This starter set features their executive razor and 3 trial-size versions of their most popular products that help you stay fresh and clean. In your first box, you will receive their shave butter. I've used it. I love it. Your face comes out feeling really soft. Their body wash and their one-wipe Charlie's butt wipes. I'm not going to tell you if I've used those. But had I used them, you can probably hear me smiling right now. Though I am very much into the wipe experience, thanks to Howard Stern, who talks about that all the time, where he had his kids, the baby wipes, and then the baby wipes stayed. He's right. You will also receive their executive razor, which includes their premium weighty handle and full cassette cartridges. After the first box, replacement cartridges are sent only for a few bucks a month. This offer is exclusively available at dollarshaveclub.com/spike for me. That's dollarshaveclub.com/spike. Dollar Shave Club's high-quality products will have you covered from face cheeks to, that's right, butt cheeks. There is no better time to try the club.
Now, Podcast One brings you Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast, Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
All right, here we are, Spike's Car Radio, here in the 90210. We're not on the porch in Malibu, and I'm here with someone I've wanted to talk to. I've been watching this show. I like this show. It shows you what can be done in unscripted television that's different. It shows all of these channels. I won't name them. History, Discovery, the rest of you guys who have this aging audience of people who are dying watching these old-timey unscripted shows. It shows you what's coming next. The show is called Adam Ruins Everything, and I'm here with Adam Conover.
Hey, thank
Adam.
you so much for having me.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah,
I really do like your format. I love your show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
It's humorous, it's funny, and it's informative, and it's different. Most importantly, it's different.
Thank you. I'm very happy about that it's different.
Did you create this show?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. Where do you come from? I don't know anything about you, Adam Conover.
Sure. I was I grew up on Long Island, come from an academic family. I'm the only member of my family who doesn't have a PhD, so I'm the fuck up because I have a bachelor's degree. I wanted to go on to grad school, couldn't hack it. Too ADD, couldn't handle the reading, went into comedy instead. I was in a sketch group called Old English for many years. Sort of had some early success
hold on.
in the web world.
Let me hit the pause button for
sure.
1 second.
Please.
The parents are academics. Does
Yes.
that mean teachers or what?
Professors.
Professors.
My father was a professor of marine biology at SUNY Stony Brook.
Okay.
And my mom is a PhD in botany, ran a science museum when I was a kid.
So, and you decide, I want to be in comedy.
Yes.
I love this moment. This is my favorite as a parent and as a kid.
Yeah.
Right? So, what did they say? How old are you when this happens, and what do they say?
Well, I had been doing comedy in my college sketch group, and we had a little bit of early success on the early web. Like we had a couple,
but they
couple
thought
years before
they
YouTube.
thought you're going to college to do what?
I was going to a liberal arts college, so they were like, "He'll find it out on the way,"
Right.
Like they were always like, "Oh God, we hope he finds something,"
So are you the oldest?
I am the oldest.
And
yeah.
did they kind of write you off? Because my
Yes,
parents
I
did
was a
that.
little written off, yeah.
My parents did that to me. They said, "Let's focus on Wally, the number 2, because this guy, his head is somewhere where we don't know where it is, but we know it's in a bad place." So you announced to them, I've in college, pretty late.
In college, I started doing comedy, and then my second or third year after college, I was in New York, and I was doing I had a full-time job as a web developer, which is pretty good at the age of 22 or whatever. I was making $35,000 a year. So I had benefits, though, stuff
yeah,
like
but
that.
you're working with computers.
Yeah, exactly. But
Mom
I told
and Dad
them
are very happy.
I quit the job in order to make videos on our website, on my sketch group's website, and that was the moment at which they could have said, "We're going to disown you," and instead they were like, "Okay," like they let me sort of take that risk.
They did,
and and it was a moment of their neutrality was support in that moment,
And I guess it doesn't matter. I don't know. When my parents wrote me off, it was such a relief to just go, all right, now you finally realize I'm going to do whatever I want to do, right? Did you feel the same way at that moment?
A little bit. I mean,
your parents, it sounds like they did it right. They go, whatever. They put it all on your shoulders, and then you feel that. And
the worst they ever did was earlier, and when I sort of, like I said, I wanted to go to grad school for philosophy. Thank God I didn't, but that's what because I was in love with ideas and learning and asking big questions and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to do this forever. I want to go to grad school. And just everyone I talked to is sort of like, including my parents. They were like, "Do you really?" And I was like, "What? You guys have PhDs. Why don't Why aren't you being encouraging?" And so just that sort of soft, maybe don't dream so big, kid. In a weird way. And for whatever reason, when I started doing comedy. Seriously, and we did it seriously in college, but then there was a moment of like, okay, let's really make a go of it. That they were like, okay, they were like, all right, let's see what happens, But it was.
But you're not making any money doing that.
No, but but there is a sort of, I was.
Are you
in
living with your parents at that point?
No, I was in New York. I was.
Well, how are you supporting yourself?
I was doing freelance video editing and web development and stuff like that.
So you're that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I got the sketch comedy troupe.
There's a lot of people like, I spent 10 years in New York. I only left that life, a couple of years ago.
But it got, back when I did that, and my way of doing it was waiting tables and bartending. Mm-hmm. It was possible still to rent an apartment in New York City.
Yeah.
Like my rent on the Upper West Side was $380, which is really expensive for this pretty much a closet.
Yep.
But I was able to, intern at Saturday Night Live and then wait tables and eat.
Yeah.
Right? And write jokes. That's all I did. That was my life. Nowadays, I don't understand how you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, does the sketch comedy troupe at any point, does it break open and you're making money? Or?
I mean, also, the sketch group that I was in was a group called Old English, and I spent about 5 years in this group. And we actually were making money for a period because there was this early web video boom. This was 2006, and this is when I quit my web development job. And we're like, let's make videos all summer. And then a couple months after that, we started making a video a day, basically. And then 6 months later, we went to the Aspen Comedy Festival, and then we got a deal making videos for this site called Super Deluxe, which is recently relaunched, the Turner site. This website existed for like a year and a half to 2 years. They signed us up to a contract to make 36 videos. We spent like 2 years making these videos, and then they were just throwing money at sketch groups. And then some, vice president or president at Turner walked by and we were like, what the hell are you guys spending money on? How much money did you blow? What's your plan? And pulled the plug on the whole thing. Like in a day.
I'm sorry, you're throwing money at sketch groups?
That's what they were doing.
I've never heard that phrase
There was this
before.
weird, talk to anybody who was doing comedy in New York in 2006, and they'll remember that there was money getting thrown at people.
I was doing it in L.A.
So.
Now, wait. So pretty much whatever you're saving, it's not real money, right? So if they give you $50,000, it's whatever you save making your videos that you guys get to split. Yep. That still doesn't sound like significant cash.
We lived off of it. It was enough for us 5 guys to live off of for about 2 years. Okay. And then that website was canceled. The group kind of broke up. I started teaching sketch comedy at UCB.
Oh, great.
And doing
in New York
freelance
or in
work.
LA?
New York. I was still in New York, yeah.
Wow.
And I started doing stand-up then, because I had always sort of had a little bit of an inkling to, and I was like, all right, now the group's no longer together. I'll go, and I'll do that really rigorously.
And how was that transition? I mean, sketch to stand-up.
It was pretty good. I mean, I had a little bit of, performance chops. I was a little bit more comfortable on stage than your average, 21-year-old dope. And
you could
but
act
it was
out
still
your jokes clearly.
A little bit, yeah.
What was your that first stand-up set like? What did you do?
God.
Did you write stuff
God.
down?
What a horrible question. I mean, there were a couple times I remember. This was before I started doing it seriously.
Well, this is where expectation meets reality. That's why I asked the question. It is a horrible moment. Yeah, but it's a very interesting moment to me.
Well, it's so funny how when you do stand-up and when you actually start doing it seriously and do it every day, it's a true crucible. In the classic sense of a crucible where, things are burned away and what is pure remains, because you can go in with whatever idea you have on the first time, right? But then if people will say, oh, how do I get started in stand-up? It's like, just go up and do it, right? Because you cannot pre-learn anything. You have to learn it on stage. And by the time you've done, 20 open mic sets, your original, what you did the very first time, you've thrown it all away. You're not doing anything like that anymore, So, I remember I was doing really conceptual. This is a humiliating to mention.
And then, Will, give us some AC in here. We're dying already. It's like 120 degrees outside, and you're cooking us in here. Thank you, Will.
I had this horrible idea where the very first time I did stand-up, I was like, I'll be a character. And this is so stupid. I was like I went up as a tree doctor, like someone who treats trees, and the bit was that I hated bushes, and so I was roasting bushes. I don't remember any of the jokes. I just remember this being such a terrible, and I did that in the basement of a taco place in Midtown.
Oh God!
Or I think Maui Taco, is what it was called.
And how many people are sitting out there?
It's like 5 comics.
My recollection is exactly right. 5 other comics with little pads, and they're just waiting to get up on stage so they can do that, and nobody's laughing.
Yeah, and but I honestly don't miss open mics. I don't entirely miss it, right? Obviously, some things about it are shitty.
Are you doing stand-up now?
I do stand-up now. I don't, but I no longer am able to keep up, what I did for about 5 years. Hey, I'm going to do 5 to 7 sets a week, and I don't give a shit if it's a booked show or if it's an open mic, I'm doing those sets. And so, the New York open mic scene is so... there's a lot of bad things about it. It can be very poisonous, etc. People can be really mean to each other, but it's like there's such a camaraderie between all the people doing it, and people really are doing it seriously. There's a lot of I know so many great comics who came out of that scene just like 5-7 years ago. Mike Lawrence, Mark Norman, Sean Donnelly, all these great comics. Michelle Wolf, it was such a cool feeling to get up there and go. Every night and really just trying to make other comics laugh is harder, especially because a lot of them are assholes. But if you can, it's really good training. If you can make an open mic crowd laugh and pay attention to you, because you have to get over this barrier of, if you go to 3 open mics a night, which a lot of people do in New York, the barrier becomes not can I make the crowd laugh, it's can I make them look up from their phones because people, or can I make them stop talking in the back of the room and pay attention to me? Yes. Can I get people? How do I get people's attention and just get them to buy me as someone on stage? Because 75% of all the people going up are just wasting everyone's time.
Now, so what do you do now when you go on stage? How much time do you do?
Now I can, now I
what's
do
your act
headlining
like? I've
sets
never seen you perform stand-up. What are you talking about? Your life, or you talking about exterior life? What's your
It's
thing?
interesting. Well, I do sort of two types of shows. Last year, Adam Ruins Everything is an informational show, and so last year we did an election special on True TV, which is opposed to me playing a character in this sort of sketch comedy world. It was a live show, and so I'm just myself. Hey, I'm Adam Conover, and here's a bunch of stuff we learned about the history of America's elections, history of our political system, how our political system works, etc. And so it was this sort of live comedy TED Talk. It was
right.
The longest version was about an hour, and then we sort of cut it down to 41 minutes as we toured it. That was really fun, and that's sort of
translating the show into a stand-up act, much in the way I guess Bill Maher does. Takes his point of view from his show and does it in stand-up.
And so that's one type of live show that I do, but that requires a lot of writing to do that show. It requires research
and a lot of
writing.
How do you remember it all? Do you work from a prompter when you're recording your show?
I don't work from a prompter.
You don't?
I have a pretty weird and good ability to look at a page of words. It helps when I've written the words.
Right.
Look at a page of words, like a paragraph, say it a couple of times, then when the camera's rolling, the first time's a stumble through, by the second or third time I've got it.
Yeah, that's how it works.
And that's just some people, I work with tons of actors, some amazing actors with terrible memories can't, cannot remember a line that's longer than 10, 15 words long. And I don't blame them for that. It's just something I can do. And all I can say is hey, I wrote a show around what I was good at. I'm able to remember big chunks of dialogue, and I can remember 20 to 25%, or go almost 23% of this. A study showed in 1992, and I can do that.
Yeah, and there's no
repeatedly.
audience, and you can stop and you can go.
Yeah.
And you're the executive producer, I take it.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Let me ask you how you created the show. How do you get from this sketch guy who's maybe doing stand-up to actually getting a show on television? Because the bar these days is impossibly high.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're going to host it and you're going to executive produce it.
And especially if it's going to be on, we're very lucky to be on basic cable. Like True TV, incredible partner. Perfect place for the show. And the big thing is they're the only channel in the the basic package, the 75 channel package, not the 200 channel package.
The skinny bundle, we call that.
Yeah, exactly. The skinny bundle, the normal bundle, the one with all the channels you've heard of,
right?
Where you're not what the hell is cooking television?
Right.
It's all the regular ones. True TV was the only network where you look at it and you're this is a network that'll take a risk on a new show.
Right.
Every other show, the ones you mentioned, History, Discovery, they're hey, we pitch them.
Let me tell you what our research shows.
Yeah.
Right. First of all, Adam, you have glasses. You do not fit in.
Yeah. Let me tell
your beard. You're unshaven, but you don't have a beard. You seem smart. You're too smart for our audience. They don't want to think. I hear this constantly. They're and it's such a short-sighted strategy because these people are going to die. You're talking about old people.
They
die and then they stop watching you. You need to put something behind that.
We met an executive who, this British guy, loved the show. And he said, I probably shouldn't tell this story, but I will. I actually don't remember which network it was, but I'm
gonna guess right now.
The guy's
Simon Cowell.
He's oh, I love your show. Sorry, we had done videos on the web.
I know
right?
who this is. Go ahead.
So he said, I love the videos, very good. But here's the problem: our audience is guys in Idaho wearing Wrangler jeans.
Yep.
And how do we make this work for them? And I was this is bizarre. This motherfucker's never met anyone wearing Wrangler jeans.
No, he's not.
He's from London. He lives in L.A.
Yep.
And it's just my approach is hey, if you
I
like
just
the
met
show,
with this guy. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Oh man!
And I heard this speech. And I'm not going to out you right now, but it's what I'm yelling about. You can't make TV like that.
Yeah.
You can't make it based on your audience in a demographic research
and
survey.
your weird understanding of them. Because I was look, man, if you like the show, put it on TV.
Exactly.
And guess what? Here's the thing.
And by the way, the audience will find that show. If you leave it on there.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a new audience.
And a lot of people said, and these are people in L.A., when we went and pitched the show, something we heard from multiple networks was it's too coastal.
Did you pitch it by yourself or with a studio?
With
a lot of people
bit.
Who listen, and I'm sure you get this too. They have ideas and they don't even know how this stuff happened. Did you take it into a studio first and then to a network?
What happened was I was a sketch writer at College Humor, which is wonderful. That was literally my dream job. When I went from being a stand-up comic, my sketches were broken up. So I'm a stand-up comic. I'm doing open mics, and then I got a gig at College Humor writing sketches. That place is a sketch comedy writer's dream, especially if you're, I was making, salary, benefits, like secure money for the first time in years. But also, my only job is to write 2 sketches a week. And this brilliant guy, Sam Reich, runs the video department there. I owe this guy my career. He, he really puts the writers in charge. So it's the writer is like the executive producer of the sketch. So you get to overrule the director. You get to give notes on the edit. And, if the room agrees your sketch is funny, then it's going into production, So it's really like how comedy should be written from a writer's perspective. And so I had been an information sponge my whole life. Just like, again, I like the, learning and that kind of thing. And I'm just the kind of guy, I read the New Yorker every week. I listen to podcasts in my car. Like I'm an audiobook guy, I don't read fiction. I just suck up information. And I was just repeat information, like I would literally at parties and stuff, oh, you got an engagement ring? Well, let me tell you the truth about that. People are like, oh my God. Right. So, but our original engagement ring story about how the engagement ring was a marketing creation by the De Beers Corporation,
right,
which is true. I had read that like 5 or 6 years previous, and the idea stuck with me because it was so like revelatory, like holy shit. And I started telling that story in my stand-up act. And I noticed when I did that, the whole challenge with stand-up is like, how do I get anyone to care, about what I'm saying? Like it's after a while you realize you can make people laugh, but how do you make them do anything more than laugh? You know what I mean? Like there's a million people out there who can make people laugh, and I'm never going to make people laugh as hard as Sean Donnelly, my friend, does, because he's one of the funniest people on the earth. You know what I mean? Like, will make you, hold your sides and belly laugh and hurt. So once I started, giving people this information as well, like, did you know this? I realized I could hear the audience sort of shifting in their seats and like leaning forward and going like, huh, people come up after, and say, is that really true? Oh my God. Or they come to another show and they'd say, I looked that up. That's actually true. Oh my God. So I'm writing 2 sketches a week at College Humor at the same time I'm doing this. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to write a sketch based on the same idea. We'll do the same thing, but it'll be a comedy sketch. And the thing I did was, on the show, my character is, always like all the other characters are going like, oh, why are you're so annoying? Like, get out of here, The reason I wrote it that way, the very first sketch I wrote that way, was I was worried about the other writers in the room making fun of me for being pedantic. If I brought in this script about the engagement ring, they'd be like, oh my God, you're such a killjoy. This is so ranty. So I just literally wrote 2 of the other writers into the script, making fun of me, going, oh, why do you have to do this?
Oh,
in order to get ahead of them making fun of me in the writer's room.
Right.
So I wrote their reaction in, and that turned out to be the comedy engine for the whole series. So
that's what you took in that sketch?
Yeah,
and said, let's do this as a series?
We did the first one, and College Humor had just moved us all out to L.A. because they wanted to make TV shows, and we made the first one, and we were all just kind of like, oh, this would be a good pitch. So we made a couple more. Funded by College Humor, went up on College Humor's site. Oh, and the first one, by the way, it was a hit. It was
right.
It didn't just, it got good views. Other sketches get views too, but it got pickup. It got like on a couple different sites.
Right.
And the critical thing was, to me, I was like, it got picked up by like Huffington Post or whatever. The kind of places, blogs and stuff. But also, World Star Hip Hop picked it up. Seriously, World Star Hip Hop put it on their website, and it got like about 1 million views just from World Star Hip Hop.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is like something. If it's not just the same types of place, those are 2 very different demographics, HuffPo and World Star. So we did those. We made a couple videos, and then we started bringing it around to networks, and we just did, hey, we just pitched it around town.
And was it only True TV that was interested, or were there other networks interested in it?
Everywhere said, we got very positive reactions. They would say, hey, we love the show, or this is great, but and then they would say, Wrangler jeans, and they would say, but it's too coastal. They would say, this is only going to play in Brooklyn and L.A. And the thing is, they were dead wrong about that.
Where does it play?
It plays.
Now that it's on TV, where does it play?
Plays on Tuesdays at True TV at 10 p.m.
No, but I mean the audience. What audience watches this show?
I mean,
everybody watches it, right?
It is really cross-generational and cross-cultural. We did a tour.
Oh, I guess the executives were wrong.
They were wrong.
They were wrong.
We toured it last year. We did our election special.
Are you listening, executives? Are you learning?
I feel like you've got a little anger.
It's not anger. I get frustrated because I have a production company and I have people like yourself come in and I take these ideas in and I hear dumb people tell me why it's not going to work. Having worked on many of these shows, Seinfeld or any of these shows where I've heard the same goddamn speech, right? Every idea should not be evaluated based on the demographic. It should be based on the idea.
And they're doing
this is fresh and this new. And I imagine when you came in, every executive should say, I haven't heard this before. Yeah. And that should have been their aha moment. Wait, you know what? This is different.
And that's why we could tell, even if no one had picked it up, I would be like, hey, they all liked it. No one was bored. Everyone was into it. But yeah, I mean, like we when we toured the election special last year, we did, I think 13 to 15 cities. We went from, across the country, everywhere from like, Detroit to Texas. We did 3 shows in Texas, to Pennsylvania, to LA, and we sold out every city. And everyone, there was a line to, we did photos after the show.
Right.
There was a line, and people would come up in every city and say, I love your show. It's the only show that my whole family watches together. They would say,
good.
I watch it with my kids. And that's not what we expected. Like,
anyway, just in case people haven't seen the show, because we haven't even done that, just give us the quick synopsis. What is the show? How does it work?
So it's I call it an informational sketch comedy show. The way it works is there's a different character in every single episode who we call the Mark, who's someone who has a misconception about the world. It's someone who says, is like, I'm going to donate canned food to my food drive because that's what they need. And then I pop up and I say, actually, that's not true. And they're like, oh, my God, who are you? And I bother them, right? So I sort of play this heightened version of a TV host who's, who it's basically like, if you were to watch it's a classic, informational TV host who's telling you about the world, except the other person is going like, oh, my God, this guy's annoying. And that's the comedy engine of the whole thing. And
you're
broad
interrupting
topics,
with these truths behind these beliefs that we have about things,
yes,
right? So with the engagement ring, it was an ad campaign.
Yep.
And then people forgot about the ad campaign.
But we still have engagement rings
We still
today.
believe this to be an old tradition.
The whole
but it's really
idea
not.
of 3 months salary, 2 months salary, that was literally just something the De Beers Corporation came up with.
That was in the ad. Oh,
yes.
my God.
And
next
so,
you're going to tell me Mother's Day is fake.
I mean, yeah, we did a little segment on that one. Though I believe the woman who came up with Mother's Day later wanted it to be abolished because it became so commercial and she hated it.
She was holding it back, just like Ray Kroc in the original McDonald's guys. Those 2 guys were holding Ray Kroc back. Just let it live.
We very broadly we debunk common misconceptions, and that's most of our segments. But there's also just some where we just tell you, a truth about the world. We talked about, we did an episode on like the, our horrible, prison system, for instance, where there are some misconceptions in there, but a lot of it is just like, this is some stuff.
What are
you
some
need to
misconceptions
know.
about our prison system? Do you remember?
I mean, one is the rise of private prisons and what that, the effect that has on people. The biggest one that's the most impactful, I think, is that solitary confinement should be considered a form of torture. If you look at what it does to people, it's inhumane enough that we should consider it torture.
What goes wrong in that situation?
I mean, people just really fundamentally, humans are social animals. Our need to communicate with others is up there with eating and drinking, and so it just fundamentally changes people's brains. Like it shows up on brain scans, that people's brains sort of shut down, and so some are able to survive it and come out of it fine, but some people it just drives them insane.
It ruins it.
Yeah, it really, and they come out and they. They harm themselves or they, commit suicide or they have PTSD. There's a case of this kid Khalif Browder, who wasn't even convicted of a crime but was put in solitary confinement awaiting trial, and he was awaiting trial for 3 years, and he was in solitary confinement for much of that, and he was never even convicted of the crime, but he ended up killing himself. There's a case in New York. So it's, and it's this thing that we never think about, right? So because the whole thing about the prison system is it's invisible to us, to those of us who are not in prison. That's kind of the whole point.
That's our entire listening audience, by
Yeah.
the way. This is prison podcasting.
So
that's who podcast.
So our
does.
goal is to spread the hidden truths about the world
Right.
and to uncover the things that we don't think about.
So,
and guess what?
wait,
Everyone's
now you're
interested
in your
that.
second season right now. You just wrapped
Yeah.
up your second season
Yep.
and launched it in July.
Mhm.
What was it like? You're coming into a TV show,
Yeah.
Without any real experience producing a TV show.
Yeah.
You're executive producing by yourself, or do you have someone?
I've got executive producers with me who come from. I mean, it was a team effort.
But
with the College Humor staff.
you're college humor. You guys are doing
Yeah.
a different kind of thing. You're in an office. You're making videos. You're editing your stuff, and now you walk into a TV show. What were the challenges of shooting a show and running a show?
It's a good question. There is the big challenge for me is I am used to up until that point. You want to make good work, right? You don't have money. So what's the other thing you have? Time, right? So you sink your time and your effort into the work. If I'm designing a web page in my 20s, or if I'm making a sketch video, you know what I mean? I'm going to work on it harder than anybody else, and just like look at every single little bit, in order to make it good. And that's also College Humor's. That was our ethos towards making things. Like the thing about College Humor is the videos that we made were never cheap or crappy. They were, even when they were cheap, they were good. They looked better than anything else on the web. And so that was the approach that we took towards making the show, that I was like, I want the show to be good in every single possible way.
Right.
So I want every episode not only to have, be factual and be funny, but also to have a storyline and to be beautiful to look at and to be, quick moving and et cetera. And the thing is, when you're making, our first year we made 11, or we made 12 including the pilot. Our second batch we made 14, and then we just finished making 16. Those are, 3 orders across 2 seasons. But you're making so many episodes, if you just try to put maximum effort into every single one on an individual level, you burn yourself out pretty quick.
Right.
So so the main challenge is going from a world where in stand-up, it's all you. You can perfect it yourself. It's
right.
But
you
are
walking
the only project.
into network executives.
Yeah.
You're hiring staff.
Yes.
What was that like? Where you realize I can't quite move as quickly, like you're saying, as I thought I could now. I'm also having to operate in a political landscape, dealing with a lot of different elements, a lot of different departments, PR departments, and people who are used to calling shots.
It was challenging. Luckily, the two things that made it,
you don't seem like a guy who's going to get upset.
I
and
don't
start
get
screaming at people.
I don't get upset.
No.
I don't get upset. I'm pretty even. I get like worried.
But I'm sure
or I get
you
a
were
little
given
anxious,
bad
but...
notes at some point. And,
Yep.
and how did you navigate that stuff? What was your strategy? Because I'll tell you mine. Mine's like, if I can get maybe 75% of my vision on camera, on the screen, that's about as good as I'm going to do, and then I'll earn the rest, right? With success, I'll be able to say no eventually.
Well,
what was your formula?
Let's see. There's a couple elements to it. One is that I believe strongly in what I want to do, and if I'm really sure about something, I'm not gonna back down on it. And very luckily,
so you have some
College
diplomacy
Humor...
in that moment when.
Say again?
Well, we all believe that, but at that moment with the executive, you have diplomacy. Is that what you're doing?
Well,
when I'm telling you, no, I'm not sure I want the word ruin in the title of your show. The testing didn't come back good on ruin.
Yeah,
because people think you're ruining things.
There's definitely.
Are you patient with them?
Yes.
You
you have to do a lot of diplomacy. You're absolutely right. And like sometimes you say, okay, I'm going to give them this one, or sometimes they give a bad note, and you say, okay, what if I just change the whole thing? I'm not going to do what they suggest, but I'm going to make it totally different so that it seems like the note is being taken, but I'm going to still doing it my way, right? But then, with a couple of the notes, you get to a point where, you have to say, no, we're just not going to do this one, and very luckily, my other EPs at College Humor's production company produces the show. They totally had my back on it, so they would go to, we sort of built a system in place for where it's like, okay, if we really got to say no to this, then we're going to call them up or we're going to escalate. And how do we do that? And they're going to have my back on it, et cetera.
Fantastic.
So that was really, really critical. Where if I said, hey guys, key art came in for the the premiere ads, and it misrepresents the show. Okay, we're going to circle up and figure out how to go back to the network and get that fixed. And the first year you learn how to deal with each other, and now I don't get bad
now it's
notes.
Great, right?
Yeah,
no,
because
I get it. You figured it out.
We've got a really good relationship.
Yeah, you figure out the relationships and where everything works. I get it.
That's
good.
You're totally right that a huge amount of it, and I think the difference between a comedian who's able to go on and become a producer, is the ability to navigate the politics of it, like true politics, like knowing that there's an executive and they're telling you something and you don't like what they're saying, but you got to think, hey, what is it that they're trying to accomplish? How are they trying to save their skin?
Exactly.
And how can I make their life easier while still getting what I want? That's like true.
You can drug them.
That's like true politics, right?
It is.
And so
you're operating a political landscape and a creative landscape at the same time, and that's what a lot of people don't know.
Fortunately, I was able to pick up on how to do
great.
that. And so I'm not the best at it, but I also have people I work with who are better at it than me.
Right.
And I can say,
they'll
hey,
protect you.
What do you think we should do? Should we, who should we call about this? Or how hard can we push on this? Do we have leverage in this situation? Yes, no. Okay, we got to give it on this one, but, et cetera. But then
you're custom made for television. You're going to do very well, Adam. We're going to take a break. We're here with Adam Conover from Adam Ruins Everything. In a minute, Adam's going to ruin cars. Hey, say you're in the market for a new car, but you don't want to step into the dealership and feel uncomfortable. Well, guess what? That's why there's TrueCar. With TrueCar, you'll see what other people in your local market paid for the car you want before you even step foot in the dealership. From there, you can connect with a local TrueCar certified dealer and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Using TrueCar, you can easily find the car you want. Once you register, you'll see real pricing on actual inventory. This is competitive pricing offered to you only by a TrueCar certified dealer for an actual vehicle on their lot. It's pricing you'll see before going to their dealership so you can feel confident when you show up. You want to feel confident because if they smell weakness on you, you're dead. Right, Matt? They smell weakness on you, you're dead.
It's like blood in the water.
Blood in the water. TrueCar customers are more likely to enjoy a faster buying process when they connect with TrueCar certified dealers. TrueCar users can save an average of over $3,000 off MSRP. When you're ready to buy, visit TrueCar to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. And remember, take it from me, Spike, you're going to remember this experience every time you drive your new car, so you want it to be a good experience. TrueCar. Do you want to help keep my podcast stay free to download with minimal ads? You know I want that. I can only assume that you want that too. Too many commercials is a drag. Well, do me a favor and take a quick listener survey to help support the show. Your responses will help align the appropriate advertisers to my audience. And don't worry, the survey is short and completely anonymous and takes no more than 5 minutes. Just go to www.podcastone.com/mysurvey or go to www.podcastone.com and click the survey banner. It's easy. If you filled a survey out in the past, thank you, but we still need you to do it again. You're doing all of us a huge favor by filling it out. Thank you for supporting the show and taking the time to complete the survey. Don't forget to vote Zuckerman off the island. Now go get on that survey.
You're listening to Spike's Car Radio.
All right, we're back with Adam Conover.
Hello.
From Adam Ruins Everything.
That's me.
And I saw, in my research, I do vast research on all of my guests, Google search, and Adam Ruins Cars came up.
Yeah.
And I have not seen this episode.
Oh, okay.
But it said you ruined the dealership. Tell me about that episode, because I think the audience would love to hear about this.
So that was the third episode of the show we ever did.
Wow, right away.
I've got a real,
Are you a big car guy at all?
I'm an anti-car guy.
You're an anti-car guy.
I hate cars. I actually just, I'm very sorry. I hate them. I hate being in them. I hate driving.
Why? Tell me why.
Okay,
what happened to you?
Well, first of all, I
hate being in them.
First of all, yeah, I don't like being in them.
Right.
I grew up in New York.
Yeah, we heard you're an academic family, but you had to get to the grocery store.
I've always had. First of all, I did not learn to drive in high school because I have
That's
bad.
common.
I have bad eyesight,
right?
And so I've always there was something. It was harder for me than other kids. My dad and mom were terrible teachers. They were just like it was like my sister didn't learn either. It was like a total family failure to learn in high school.
But don't you have driver's ed? Don't you go to a school for that?
It was my school did not really have driver's ed. It was really weird. It was really weird. I had the weirdest experience so I took an after-school driver's ed program, and I still can't explain this to this day. Took an after-school driver's ed program. The first half they just teach you in the you're sitting down. They're teaching you the rules from the handbook, right, to take the written test or whatever. Then it's time to go out and drive. So I'm in the car with these 4 other, or 3 other, meathead Long Island kids, and then the gym teacher or whatever, right?
I love that.
And I realized for some reason, I don't understand why this is, but everybody else in the class already knew how to drive and was just taking the class because, they had to get some qualification. I was the only person who did not know how to drive at all.
My kids, my 9 and my 7-year-old, both know how to drive.
Your 9 and your 7-year-old?
Yes.
You seem to be a car guy.
No, when I was young, I just begged my dad to let me drive always, and he never really did, and I don't want to be that guy. So,
I love.
So they did, but you bring up this really interesting point that I've totally forgotten about with Mr. Monaster. This learning how to drive is hard enough.
Yeah.
But to be in the front seat with one of your teachers,
yeah.
and then a bunch of random kids behind you. Talk about pressure.
And that's the thing is the teacher did not expect me to have no, he was like, oh, you don't know anything? Okay, that's the gas. And then I was 1 cat out of 5, and we did that session.
Oh, what is this?
Yeah.
I'd be in back going, I'm going to die today.
And we did that
Conover's
session
here. He's behind the wheel.
We only did that 5 times. I only had 15 minutes behind the wheel, so I just didn't learn from that experience. Then I went to college where I didn't have
so
any
you
need for
learned nothing?
Yeah. I learned nothing in the class. And then I spent my 20s in New York City where
right.
I was like, God, I have to learn to drive at some point.
Did you drive here today?
True PR sent a car for me today.
There, I see you're nodding out there. So you still don't drive?
No, I do. So I didn't learn to drive for the 10 years I lived in New York because how would I even do it?
Right.
I'd have to take a driving test in Queens. No way.
Yeah, you don't have to worry.
So
about
I came to LA when I finally moved to LA 3 years ago. That is when I learned to drive, and I do drive now. But I hate it, and I learned to drive, and I made my peace with it.
What kind of driver
I spent 3 years. I'm
dawdler in the left lane.
I'm a very careful, slow driver. I follow all the rules, but
that's good. I like that.
And I drove for to and from work 45 minutes each way commuting. And I gave it a real go. And then this last year, I was like, you know what? I hate this. I really hate it. It makes me unhappy. It makes me tense.
Wow,
you're
the complete opposite of me.
It makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
And I literally started taking the bus to work because I found out there was a bus that people in LA don't do this. They don't look to see.
My wife takes the bus. She takes the trains. She loves that stuff.
I love it. And when we, me and my girlfriend,
Not me.
It's always say, hey, maybe we'll move. You know what I mean? And my only thing for where I want to live within a 15-minute walk of an LA subway station.
Right. You do know we have earthquakes here, right?
Yeah,
and
what about them?
These tunnels traverse the fault lines.
I think tunnels are safe in an earthquake, probably, aren't they?
You think so?
I would imagine. They
Being
can't fall down. But I love public transportation.
Why don't you do that? Can you do Adam Ruins L.A.? I would love to see that episode because people here, they don't even remember that there are earthquakes here anymore.
Yeah.
I moved here back in the early 90s, right after one of the biggest earthquakes we had, which really was kind of minor by comparison to what's probably going to happen. And everybody just thinks, go ahead, we'll dig things in the ground, tunnels, we'll make this hyperlink thing that goes all the way up to San Francisco and shoot you up there like a hamster in a tube. Ruin it for us. Tell us what's going to happen with that. But anyway, I don't want to get off this car thing. Because I love this. You hate cars.
Here's what bothers me.
But do you channel that into this episode?
Yeah,
is that why
it
was the third episode of your series?
Because I had such a fire about it.
Good.
About it having moved to LA and being forced to engage with it. Because here's the thing. Because as someone coming to it fresh, right? Mm-hmm. If you were to explain to someone because most people grow up with it and then they expect it as part of their lives, and they're sort of like, wait, that's how you get around as a car, right? I had lived in New York for 10 years where to get around the city, all I need $100 a month to go anywhere in the city, right? And to move here and to suddenly have to have to transition to, like, I had to buy a car, I had to get insurance, I had to learn to drive, and then I had to like learn how to commute, with the car. And every step of it, I was like, this is so much worse in every way. And I understand if individual people say, hey, especially, those of us who are well off and can afford all these things, say, hey, I like it, I prefer it. That's fine if you prefer it. I don't argue with people who prefer it and generally have no problem with it. But as a mass transportation system, as a way to say everyone in the country needs to move around their own city, right? People at all levels of
and have their own
wealth.
car, yes.
Like, to do that, you've got to buy one of these things, which costs 5 figures. You got to pay for the insurance. You got to pay for gas. You're liable for killing people or hurting, or so that's why you need the insurance. It's a monstrous expense to expect of people. Like, when you drive around LA, and if you listen to like a radio station, a lot of radio stations, all of their ads are for like, did you get in an accident? You need a lawyer? Like, do you need a car right now, but you can't afford
I wish
one?
Zuckerman was here.
Like, there's
I have
so
a friend
many.
who's making a lot of money on that business.
Yeah, it's so clearly like this need that people have, but it's so expensive that it is taking so much of people's lives.
Don't you think it's the freedom? We just want to be able to go where we want to go when we want to go.
There's no freedom with a car.
What are you talking about?
My God!
Look at me this morning. I was just telling you. I came here too early, and then I went home, and then I came back.
The idea of freedom in a car is such a hoax. It's such a scam. Okay, I'm sorry.
Scam?
How is it freedom? How is it freedom that in order to own one, you legally have to pay hundreds of dollars a month in insurance, or you can't drive it anywhere, right? How is it freedom where
it's not that
to
bad?
own
It's not that
one?
expensive.
What do you say?
You're talking about 5 figures with cars. I bought cars for $600.
When I moved here, my insurance started at, and this is because I had just learned to drive, but a lot of people just learned to drive. It was like $300 a month or something like that. It was insane. And here's the thing. I
was so happy to pay that. I couldn't believe I got to drive.
So,
and even, by the way, in New York, I had about 4 cars and a motorcycle. It's just a different thing. I'm wired differently. But I want to get into the show part. Tell me about.
Okay.
This
is part of what we talk about on the show,
right? What? Because I'm sure you know things that I don't know about this. What are the big misconceptions about cars that you put in that episode?
Okay, so the big one of the big specific ones that we do is about car dealerships, and we just sort of like look into the question of like why is it suck so much to buy a car, right? Because I had my first experience going to buy
it's
one.
Terrible.
It was terrible. I got I didn't get yelled at. I heard someone get screamed at by a dealership who was buying a car. They got screamed at by the manager because they had made an offer that pissed the manager off.
Right.
Why is it like that? Why can't you just go to the car store and it just says here's the car,
totally
says
agree.
$17,000 on the side, and you just swipe your card and you drive off with it? Why is it this bizarre system? And it's because car dealerships have passed these sort of like car dealerships tend in individual local areas to be powerful local businesses. Car dealerships are the ones sponsoring the baseball teams. They're the ones, et cetera, right? Like the owner of the car dealership is sort of the big man, right, in the town, right? So car dealerships always have a lot of local political power. They've gotten individual laws passed in every state around the country. It's not a federal that make them the only way to sell cars. So there's a really good episode of, I think, the podcast Planet Money about this, where they interview the guy who tried to start, I think, TrueCar or CarMax. It was one of the two of them. And he literally just wanted to be a direct seller of cars. He was like, I just want people to be able to go online, click buy, like Amazon
buy
for
like
cars.
an iPhone.
And it was illegal to do that.
You cannot do that.
You can't do it. And there's no reason other than that dealerships have these laws passed, and they do it through
They want
lobbying,
you to come in. They want
to
to be able to sweat you, and they want to sell you a lot of things that you don't.
Yep.
And every time I talk about this, and I totally agree, and I've talked about it on Car Matchmaker, the dealers start attacking me. They go crazy. But the truth is there are some reputable dealers, and then there are some bad guys.
Yep.
My experience is like yours. I've had many, many bad experiences, and I don't set foot in dealerships anymore. I would use a TrueCar, but I also use brokers. I use those services because of the system is rigged against you for the most part.
Yep.
right? And the leverage is they have all the leverage, and you get screwed.
So another one we talk about on the show is parking, and how bad parking is for communities. Like having parking, people want parking spaces, and people especially want free parking. Right? They want to they don't like to pay for a garage. You want to look for a free parking spot when you're going somewhere, right? That's actually disastrous for business areas for a couple of reasons. One is that because if you've probably had this experience, drive to downtown LA, want to go shopping, go see a show, something like that. Hey, let's turn in here, $7 to park. No. I want to find a parking spot, right? Because of that, because everyone's looking for the free parking lottery, people drive around and circle way more. So there's this guy, Donald Shoup, who's a sort of, planning scholar who's famous for writing up this issue. He has a book called The Highest Cost of Free Parking. So it causes people to circle. It creates a large amount of traffic and pollution, a measurable amount of traffic in downtown areas. And so his point is that the existence of free parking is causing a civic problem because you're not charging some people for the space that they're using, and so as a result, it creates all these negative effects. Another is
so what's the solution?
The solution is to have less parking available and to charge more for it in order to. Sorry, but in order to because another problem is parking is a dead zone in terms of if you go to. A parking lot is it's an economically empty space. You know what I mean? They're uncomfortable to be in, they're ugly, and nothing is happening other than a place to store cars while they're asleep.
Right.
And so, and a lot of buildings, city planning, a lot of cities require too much free parking to be built. They say if you want to build this building, you must have 300 spaces of free parking available. And so it creates our city centers are sort of full of these huge empty spaces in which nothing is happening.
Right, and traffic's great. I was just up in Monterey, and I had my old Volkswagen Police Bug that has a PA horn on it. This is great, by the way. I have the ability to talk to people in traffic through the PA horn, and I was behind those cars looking for the free parking. And I would say, there is none, and I would scream at them, and they would like that, and I would say, keep moving, you're not going to find a spot, and it would... But you're right, the whole little city of Carmel, little town there, was all shut down.
Yes,
and you're still done. All right. What else? What else did we learn in that episode?
So the main thing for me is that the America sort of made this decision about 100 years ago to go with cars over public transportation, and we had a lot more public transportation than we do now. We had streetcars. Every city in the country basically.
This is Henry Ford's fault.
Had many. Well, not. It's a lot of different forces' fault. It's corporate pressure. It's certain city planners. It's cars. It's the public to some degree, right? But what happened was every city in the country had streetcars going all over the city, right? And the streets were public places, right? And the rise of cars caused the streetcars systems to collapse because the streetcars would get stuck in traffic. Where previously there had not been traffic. They had ruled the road, right? But suddenly there's all these cars everywhere. Now the streetcar systems are inefficient. Less people are taking them. So all the streetcars disappear. We start building highways everywhere, right? And we went from a world in which, there was public transportation was the way that people got around their cities to one in which everyone is expected to buy a car. And is, I think, bad for people. Again, if someone, I'm not against car ownership or people who, like cars and hey, I prefer to drive. It's fun for me.
Yeah, we're talking about something different. You're talking about commuting. I'm
talking about the way that people move around their city.
Around the city, right.
And that in order to move around your city, you're required to buy one of these things, pay for insurance, and find a place to park it. The amount of stress that people have trying to find a place to park their car. I'm sure you don't because you have a garage, right? But
I deal with it constantly. Having to move it. Yeah, I can park my car at home. That's easy.
The amount of
but here in LA,
cost and effort that went into when I came to LA versus in New York where I was totally relying on public transportation. I'm like, here, just in order to move around, I got to buy one of these things, pay for insurance, move the thing twice a week. I'm constantly getting tickets.
That's happening here in LA.
Yeah,
well, LA never used to be like that. It used to be open. We're turning into New York, and that's the dirty secret of LA right now.
I love it.
We're New Yorkifying this whole place, and there's a lot of good that comes with it, but there's just just so many people all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's why it's a little harder for you.
Here's the misconception about LA, because people say, my friends from New York would say this, I got to move to LA. It's so much cheaper there. It is not cheaper.
No, it's
here.
not.
It is not. LA has some of the highest rent in the country, and it's if you compare it to income, it's higher than New York.
Adam ruins LA. Here we go, Will.
He's
going to ruin it right now. Go. Keep going.
And you have to, if you compare, so compared to, rent compared to income, or housing costs compared to income, highest in the country, LA, where something huge number of people are spending half of their money on housing, which is crazy. But then if you combine that with how much more it costs to move around the city, again, New York, $100 a month, maybe $120 now, buys you an unlimited Metro card. That's it. That's all you'll ever pay for transportation. That's all I paid for 10 years. Here, it's, you have to buy the thing, insurance, gas, repairs, tickets, etc. The cost is so much higher. So you end up spending more money when you come to Los Angeles. That's just comparing New York and LA,
How do you get around? You take the bus, really?
Now what
is the bus experience like when you're
love
caught in a traffic jam
the bus,
here?
Man. First of all, the bus drivers here, they rule the road. These guys
that's true.
They drive faster than I will drive in my Prius any day.
They're good. I respect them.
And, I take there's a dash bus that goes right from my house to our production office. It costs 35 cents.
Wow.
It costs 35 cents. And the bus driver, is friendly. He, knows everybody. He's like, hello. He waits for me. If he sees you running, he'll wait, And the people are there's old grandmas get on the bus, kids going to school. And now, so that's my
So
preference.
how do you get to the airport?
I take a lift.
You take a lift, right.
So, I will say it would be impossible what I'm describing, so me and my girlfriend went down to one car, we had two, and then she had one of those Volkswagens that cheated on the diesel.
Right.
And so they bought her car back. She made money on the car because she drove it for 3 years and they bought it back full price. But so we were like, let's just not get another car, and we split it, and we either take the bus or we take lifts. And
how long have you been doing this?
We've been doing this for about 8 months now.
And it's okay.
I love it. I feel so much more like myself when I'm on public transportation. Now that's me personally. I don't say everyone has to. I know a lot of people have bad experiences with public transportation, or that makes them uncomfortable.
No, I like them. You just I adapt to whatever I use. When I owned a motorcycle, it just was limited with what I could do. But I figured out different ways to strap stuff to my bike. When you got to move stuff around here, what are you doing?
Well,
when you say you got to bring a couple cases of beer over to your friend's party.
Sure.
What do you do?
Well,
you're lugging that stuff in the bus?
You can put that on the trunk of a Lift as well. Or, again, we still have one car that I use sometimes. Right. But how often are you moving things? I understand if
constantly. I'm moving stuff all the time.
I never
moving my garage door opener later this afternoon and putting a new one in. You know what I've been using, by the way? This is a complete tangent here. Is Postmates. Do you know those guys?
I don't use. I do a lot of delivery though, but I do. Postmates is They're
is very
like
convenient. The Uber drivers when they're not Uber or lifting will go pick your food up and bring it to your house faster than most delivery services.
Yes, it's great. I mean all those services certainly help. I mean LA, the degree to which do I have plenty of problems with Uber and Lyft, but I use them because the service they provide makes LA a livable city.
Yeah, right, right.
I'm I can't imagine living here.
Do you have a good
before.
driver rating? My Uber rating's really low.
Is
why.
it? Yeah. I don't know what my rating is.
I've been trying to get it up. Well, you press your little account thing and you'll see what it is.
Oh, I didn't know.
And
that.
I was close to going under 4.
Ooh.
And I talked to my wife about it. She goes, "I'm surprised it's that high." To tell you the truth, Spike. You're not nice in the car. I don't even talk. I don't even say it. She goes, "That's not nice. You got to talk to them. You got to be nice."
The thing I like.
Do you talk to your Uber driver?
I try not to. I mean, it's this is my time.
I'm forced to make conversation with them.
It's a little bit like an open mic where it's like if they are able to win me over in the first moment that they say, but when an Uber driver goes like, "So, what do you got going on this weekend?"
Right.
God damn it.
That's a little too open-ended.
You're not going to care. Why are you asking a question you don't care about the answer to?
But also, too, do you really want your guy who's on television now, do you really want to start telling the Uber driver what you're up to this weekend? I don't. There's a lot I don't want to say to that person.
Yeah.
Right?
I've gotten a little bit better at saying when they ask me a question so so what do you do for work? Where I'm just I don't want to get into it. I just say, I don't want to talk about it. And they say, oh, okay. It's fine.
Yeah, and they don't see. I do that same thing. And,
I don't know how rude about it.
People
I just
are confused by that moment, but what they fail to understand is this business is very stressful.
Yeah.
And then it's not a vanity thing. It's not like you're trying to be. You don't. In this moment, you want to relax. You don't want to be thinking about because if I start telling everybody what I'm doing and what I'm up to, I'm going to start to stress out, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience for me. That's what that moment's about. I like to ask the Uber driver about. I asked him about road rage all the time. I go, "What's the most fucked up thing that's happened this week to you?" And they always have a good story there.
Yeah,
because they're on the front lines. They're on the road. They're doing
That's a rough life. It's funny that we did a whole segment on our show about tipping and why tipping is specifically restaurant tipping is a bad system.
Wait, Uber tipping. Do you know anything about that? Because I thought the Uber driver was paid a tip, and now I get this thing that says, "Do you want to leave him an additional tip?"
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, so I switched to Lyft from Uber,
right?
Basically because of the tips, and it's because I'm like, man, these people are underpaid, and I just want to pay them more.
Right.
I'm a fortunate situation where I can afford to pay a little bit more, and so I prefer to, because that's like the.
But is the Uber driver already tipped?
The Uber was founded on the premise. The CEO of Uber was obsessive about this idea that like the tip should be rolled into the price, right? But and honestly, I was on board with that for the first couple of years. I think most people were like, "Oh, you don't have to tip.
It's great.
It's just a flat fee."
You just leave.
Which is that's how I think restaurant servers should be paid.
Right.
Like I think that they should get a proper $20 an hour or something, and then the food should be more expensive so that you're not having to sit there with your friends trying to calculate a tip, or it shouldn't be up to me whether the person is paid well.
Yes.
I don't think that's a good system. I think people should just be paid well for the work they do, and that should be reflected in the price.
Though I waited tables for many years and bartended, you're living for that big tip that night. A couple of big, you know what I mean?
You shouldn't be living
I don't want to
for
be
that.
restricted that way.
I don't think that's good labor practices. I don't think
I loved it because then it was into my control. If I did this the right way, I would make a lot of money, and it worked. And now, if it were a flat fee, I would definitely not make as much money.
But here's the weird shit. There's a lot of stuff in what I don't know about bartenders, but there's been a lot of research on like what causes waiter and waitresses to receive bigger tips, and it's random things. It's like people will tip a measurable amount less if it's a rainy day. Stuff like that. And so there's all of these things. It makes your income so variable, And again, I understand if someone says, "Hey, I like it," or especially I know some people, big high-rolling bartenders who work in Vegas or something, say, "Hey, I make a ton of money." That may be true for tips,
Right.
But for your average, for your diner waitress, you know what I mean? For your coffee shop person, it's like just pay them.
Well, wait, let's talk about the Uber
guy.
You still didn't answer that. What is the built-in tip? What is that built-in tip?
What's funny is that I think people were able to accept that from Uber at first. They're like, "Oh, hey, they're just paying them a flat fee. You don't have to tip."
Yes.
That's great. Over the last 3 years, people have begun to realize how underpaid those people are, and how much Uber is like screwing them as a bit, like how shitty the gig economy really is. And so I and most people I know are like, I just want to tip these people because I need to use the service.
Got it.
But I wanna make sure that they're paid well and like assuage some of my guilt, and that's where it came from.
So now you have. Well, what were they getting originally? Do you know what percentage of the ride they were getting originally?
I don't know
what it.
But here's the thing: Uber changes the rates just constantly, and the drivers have to accept whatever Uber gives them, and they don't have any choice in it. So Uber just says, "Hey, we're in a price war with Lyft right now. We're going to cut rates." And
what
suddenly everyone's making
about
less money.
flying cars? How do you feel about flying cars?
Flying cars. Well, I think we have them. They're called planes, helicopters.
No, there's a middle ground that they're promising us in the future.
I actually do this. This is part of my act. The audience never quite likes it as much as I do, but it is part of my act. Where it's like people have this desire of like, I want a flying car. It's like we have them. They're called planes. You could take flying lessons.
Right.
What you're saying is, it's the future. Why don't I just get to be a pilot? Well, I'm sorry. There's qualifications to this. And you got in a fender bender with your Honda Civic the other week. Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to take this thing off the ground.
Right. No, but
people just wanted
here's
to be
what
easy
we want.
for them.
I'm on the 10. Right, I'm on the 10. Suddenly, there's traffic jam up ahead.
You want the car commercial? You want to take off?
I press a button and I take off, and I'm flying around wherever I want.
Wow! So what you really want is you want a car that actually gives you freedom, unlike your current car where you're stuck in traffic.
I want a Jetsons mobile, and I want to go wherever I want to go, when I want to go, and then I want to drive in it.
Here's the interesting thing: people say, I love driving. You know, they say, "Oh, I love driving. No, I love my car." But then if you say, "How about a self-driving car?" They're like, "Yes, give it to me now."
Sure.
They will sign up immediately to not do the thing anymore that they claim to love.
Right.
You know?
Well, but that that's a misconception too. That's a button you push.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like cruise control. When you're tired, when you don't feel like driving, you
Sure.
let the car drive.
That's what it'll
and
be.
When you're sitting in traffic.
I
Let me
actually-
turn this off so I can finish my book.
I actually have a theory, and this is not, a research-based Adam Ruins Everything fact, but we actually looked into it on the show, and we're like, research isn't there to do the topic on it. But I believe that the majority of these companies that are doing self-driving cars is I don't think the technology is as far along as they are claiming that it is. Because what they constantly do, all these companies, Google, Uber's done it, they do these tech demos. They set up this environment that's a controlled environment, like in Mountain View, California, or in like Pittsburgh or whatever, and then they bring the press in to ride in the car in the controlled environment with an engineer in the car, and they get all this great press like, ooh, yeah, we're doing self-driving cars, right? But I think it's very, very far from actually hitting the streets in any meaningful way. What it'll look more like when it happens. It'll look more like what Tesla does or whatever, where it's like a little bit of cruise control, like you say.
Right.
But the idea of the robot car that drives without any assistance, I believe that all these companies are presenting the idea that they are the leader in the space because it gets the investors all horny, because the investors are like, that's whoever wins that race is going to be the $1 trillion company of 2050, right? And so Uber, Apple, Google, all of these companies, like, why is Google making self-driving cars? They're a
Didn't they
search
give up on it
engine
already?
company.
Didn't they already stop?
They sell ads next to search engine.
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? It's in order to give the impression that they're the
I think
company
you might
of the
be
future.
right with them, sure.
Elon Musk does the same thing, but he does it with his shit about going to Mars.
Right.
He's like, we're going to Mars. Go fuck yourself. I'm
No,
sorry. Can I swear that badly on this?
You can say whatever you want, but I love hearing
The
go
guy
fuck
gives
Elon.
a PowerPoint. He gives a PowerPoint presentation.
he's going
I've
to
got
Mars.
a plan to go to Mars, and everyone believes it. Like,
I believe him.
I could give a PowerPoint about how I'm going to Mars too.
You don't believe him?
I will applaud for him when he sets foot on Mars. When he gets, I'll be like,
oh my
hey,
God.
he did it.
Adam
But
just ruined Elon Musk.
I'm not gonna. The guy, like,
I've been waiting for this episode.
the guy does so much. All these tech guys,
But
right?
he's
all these tech
such an
people,
interesting force of something.
He's an interesting guy, but I've noticed the pattern.
And
in
look
the
what he's
tech
done.
industry.
Look what he's done for the electric car.
He's done.
Now, Tesla may not be a viable company soon, and maybe they're going to have to pivot to something else, but he really has transformed the automotive industry.
He's kickstarted it.
And,
but
and in the process, perhaps cleaned up the air. Just there's going to be less exhaust in the world.
If it actually happens, that's the thing. People say
every manufacturer is rolling out electric cars now. Volvo's saying they're phasing out internal combustion
and
engines.
that's great. And that is a great advancement.
He's completely bonkers, but his craziness has
But it frustrates me how much the tech industry, Elon Musk included, tries to get credit for things that they haven't done yet. They try to make concept videos.
Yes,
the
disruptive idea that they throw out.
Yeah,
right.
But
I like
people,
that.
And people buy it and they think it's going to happen. And Elon Musk is a master of it. He is a master of going out and he'll go out and give an interview and he's like, I think we're living in a simulation. And people are like, Elon Musk said we're living in a simulation. He read one.
Robots are going to kill us.
He half read one
Robots
philosophy
are about to
book.
kill us
Yeah.
all.
It's like what based on what is he? He makes cars.
This is great.
He started.
Yes, go at him.
He half invented PayPal, and he's made a couple $1 million cars.
Gosh.
That's it. That's all he's done so far.
Right.
So there's nothing else.
I can't believe he's railing against Elon Musk. I wouldn't think that he would be your hero.
He's fine. Look, again, the Teslas that he's made
Yes.
are wonderful cars.
Yes.
And he half invented PayPal.
Yes.
Those are the two things. Good job. Good job on those things.
Right.
He has not yet made a Hyperloop. He has not yet gone to Mars.
Right.
And did you see his
Would you go? Because I was talking a few weeks ago to Matt Farah, who's a car guy. He said he would go in the Hyperloop. He would test it. Would you go in that thing and be fired up to San Francisco?
If it actually were built, but what bothers me is when he does stuff like, they're working on high-speed rail in California right now.
Yeah.
They're trying to actually build it, In the middle of that, Elon Musk comes around, he's like, hey, how about I invented this Hyperloop. Now, I read, like, a civil engineer read his original Hyperloop plan. This was like 4 or 5 years ago when it first came out.
It was written on a cocktail napkin, right?
Yeah, it was not done. He was like, I've got this idea, and people are like, oh, we should do that instead of the train. It's like, hold on a second. This guy's not a civil engineer.
Right.
Like, he just had half an idea, and he's presenting it as though it's done.
I see.
His boring machine. Oh my God, the thing where he said, he tweeted, I got verbal government approval to build a Hyperloop. But did you see this?
I saw that.
Between New York, D.C., Pittsburgh.
I believed it.
All
Is
those
that not
cities.
true?
All those cities were like, first of all the mayors of all those cities were like, we have never heard of this. He tweeted, I got verbal government. Second of all, what the hell is verbal government approval? What is that? There's no such thing as verbal government approval. Did he go have dinner with Mike Pence? And Mike Pence was like, sounds tight, Elon. Sure, let's do it. Yeah, man, sounds good. That's what I tell somebody who I want to stop talking to. Like, it's a great plan. Let's do it. Next, hey, text me. You know what I mean?
Right.
What is that? He's constantly writing checks that he has yet to cash.
Wow.
And so I will give him I will give him credit for anything that he actually does. But
I have a SpaceX pen and I love it. It's really cool. It's got the little rocket on it.
I forgot about SpaceX. SpaceX is also a thing that has launched and landed again, and I'll give him credit for that too.
Yeah, where it landed on the platform. That was impressive. Do you think maybe he's just guiding his people? He's putting forth these challenges to them?
I think there's a little bit of that. I agree that I think you need a little bit
Which is
of,
important for a company. But
I think you need a
he's
little
also
bit,
doing it to us, though. That's what you're saying.
And he plays the press like a fiddle, and he says these things that are designed to get a lot of press coverage. Just him tweeting, "I got that have no actual basis or real plan behind them."
Right.
And they're all for his own self-aggrandizement.
Right.
Like they and so that's what
Well,
bothers
he did get a
me
hot
about
girlfriend out of it.
There you go.
Well, Johnny Depp
I
girl.
think that might have been his goal.
And that's impressive for a nerdy guy. Like, we're all nerdy guys. Look what he got. Look,
and also some of the ideas are fundamentally wrongheaded. Like, he has this. So his idea for the boring drill, right, for the boring company.
Okay.
Is that
what is that? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay. So he's done this thing where he tweeted like, I'm sick of traffic. I'm going to buy a boring machine and start digging tunnels in L.A.
Okay.
And that's what he did. And he made this video about how his plan is to eliminate traffic by. Did you see this concept video?
No.
So what the video is, it shows a car, and the car drives onto this little metal sled that is where a parking space might be on a city street. Right?
Okay.
The sled descends into the earth. Right, where it enters this sort of underground track, like a train track, and it starts zooming around at very high speed next to a lot of other cars. Right, they're all zooming around, and the idea is that then the car pops out again, somewhere else. So if I'm trying to go to Echo Park to Beverly Hills, right, I go on a little sled, I drive my car onto a little sled, it goes underground, it goes like that,
right,
and then in Beverly Hills it pops back out again, and then I drive the last couple miles to where you live. So what he's proposing is that. Instead of public transportation for people, instead of building subways, we build a subway system for cars to ride on.
Right.
Is that not the stupidest thing you've ever heard? We've already solved this. It's called trains. Just build trains, man. That's what we need.
Again, he's not taking the earthquake into consideration.
We have our own different
the
pieces
hot
of the problem.
lava beds, the magma that exists underneath L.A. It's a complete disaster in the making. The people that would just fall, riding their bikes and fall into that hole and then be shot out to Beverly Hills. Look, I love it. I love this. I love this level of frustration with Elon Musk. I had not expected it.
The Tesla, great thing, but I just stopped. Is
it a great thing?
Sure.
It definitely is cool, but I feel like they've reached their thing.
We also did a segment about how this is one of the most controversial segments we've done on our show about electric cars, and we did.
Is this the argument that it makes more pollution making the car?
It's not that. That is the argument. Now, it's not that all electric cars do that in all situations. Mm-hmm. It's that if your goal is I want to reduce my carbon footprint,
right.
It is very, very, very difficult to be sure that buying an electric car will actually do that. If you drive, like I do, a hybrid, and it's a perfectly well working hybrid, and you replace it with an electric car, you are, because of all the emissions that go into making the car, and also depending on the electricity grid where you live, right? In a large number of states, it's coal fired.
Is it more about
grid.
making the battery, or is it more about charging the car?
It's about the
because if the battery's made in China,
it's about the emissions of every single thing that go into making the car, right?
Right.
It's mining.
But where
them
are those emissions? Like
they're
if
distributed across the world. You know, they're like
all right.
Everything that you hold in your hand.
I don't mean to sound rude, or selfish. As long as it's not in L.A., I kind of don't care if it happens somewhere else.
I don't know if you understand how global warming works. It affects the whole planet.
No, please.
So,
I mean, I'm thinking about my kids, and like if my air's cleaner, then I'm helping to keep L.A. clean, even if perhaps Taiwan's getting a little dirty.
Well, L.A. is, it's pretty close to the coast, and so the water level, like the emissions in Taiwan will cause our sea levels to rise here.
So wait, are you saying that if we become an electric car culture in the United States, we're going to have more pollution in the air?
No, that's not true. But if we convert if we convert everyone to electric cars, right? Now, that will be a benefit, right? If in 50 years everyone's driving electric cars. But the benefit won't be as big as we think it is. It will be a step in the right direction, but it is nothing compared to, say, investing more in public transportation, et cetera. The other part is the degree to which you personally do a good deed by buying an electric car, right, is overstated by the advertisements. When you look at electric car ads, they're always like, man, when you buy this Nissan Leaf, you are hugging a polar bear. Like that is the equivalent of hugging a polar bear. And the fact is, if you've got like a lot of people replace their cars after 3 years. If you replace a perfectly good working car that quickly with an electric car, you're not helping the environment, you're hurting the environment.
Right.
You should, if you have a reasonably efficient car, if you got an SUV or an old junker that's getting 10 miles a gallon, yeah, sure, replacing is probably a good idea, right? But if you've got a 2010 Prius, right, or even, I don't know, a Honda Civic that's, pretty efficient, that's still working well, you should drive it into the ground before you buy a new car. You would save more carbon emissions by doing that. Wow. And that's especially depending if you live in West Virginia, which is all coal, that's 100% true. If you live somewhere that's all, waterfall power, you're better off. But so those are the concerns that people don't take into account when they're buying electric cars. It's not that electric cars are bad, it's that they are ambiguously not as good as we think they are. And the reason we made that argument is the truth is that that's true of anything that you might individually do to lower your carbon footprint. If you say, hey, I'm going to buy the green product in the supermarket aisle, I'm going to, do this. The fact is, the degree to which we can stop global warming by buying better stuff is vastly overstated. You can't solve global warming by buying better stuff. We talked about that. We talked about that in relation to electric cars on our show because that's sort of the most vivid example. But it's a global problem that we have to have global solutions to, and we need to address it on like a national, international level. We can't individually shop our way out of the problem. It's not the kind of thing that. If everyone just makes better choices, we've been sold this idea in America that if everyone individually makes better choices, we can solve global problems like climate change. We can't.
You can't.
You have to do it. You have to do it to a certain extent from the top down. That's what research shows. And the really terrible part is that at the end of that episode came out. We shot it last summer, and the end was, we always do a positive takeaway at the end of our show. The positive side of it is, hey, guess what? We are making that progress on an international level because of the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is the shining beacon we shot this summer of 2016. The Paris Agreement is the best reason for hope that we have. It shows international cooperation is possible, and it really is humanity showing that we can do it. And we all know what happened.
Yeah, we all do. Well, there it is, everybody. Adam Conover. Adam ruined a lot of stuff in this episode.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
He ruined Elon Musk. He ruined electric cars. Fantastic. It was really fun having you here.
Hey.
I want to have you back. I want to load you up with a bunch more questions. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank
and
you so
ruining
much
it,
for
man.
having me, Spike.
Wait. Let's promo the show before we go.
Yeah.
It's Wednesdays? What
Tuesdays.
night is it? Tuesdays at 10 o'clock.
On True TV.
On True TV.
Yep.
Eastern time, Pacific time. Those of you in the Central District, you got to figure it out on your own.
I think people are used to it. If you live in Central, you know to do it yourself.
Nobody tunes in anymore. I always get these things that tune in time. So we search it and we record it.
But also
right?
people
That's
in
it.
Central, they're not going like, if you say it's on at 10 p.m., they're not saying like, where's the 9 Central? What do I watch it? They're like, they know they're an hour off.
That's right.
Daily Show comes on at 10 for them. They
Give
know
us some,
that.
the Greenwich Mean people, the ones who need the most help. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio. Download new episodes every Wednesday on the Podcast One app or subscribe now at Apple Podcasts or PodcastOne.com.
Want to know why Attack Each Day was on top of the iTunes charts in its first week?
What the hell's going on around here?
I ripped my headphones off, spun around, and flinged them. I turn around, and my dad is like 3 inches from my face. And he says, go get him.
Gentlemen, we're going to attack this day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Brought to you by Podcast One Sports. Hear Jim Harbaugh, Jack Harbaugh, and JT Rogan share their stories every Tuesday on Attack Each Day, the Harbaugh's podcast, on the Podcast One app, Apple Podcasts, and PodcastOne.com.
You love podcasts, the stories, the laughs, the unexpected turns. But when this episode ends, the silence starts. Not anymore. Audiobooks.com turns that silence into your next great adventure. With over 450,000 titles, from bestsellers to hidden gems, your love for listening just found its new best friend. And because you already know the joy of audio, we're giving you 3 free audiobooks to start your journey. Imagine your favorite podcast, now with unlimited episodes. That's audiobooks.com. Keep the story going. Sign up for your free trial at audiobooks.com/podcastfree today. Because for podcast lovers like you, the end of an episode is just the beginning. That's audiobooks.com/podcastfree.